Chapter 6. The Shadow. Fear and Control. As I read through my journals of me trying to make it in the work world, I realized how plagued I was by fear and comparison and trying to control and force myself into an environment where I didn't belong, staying despite how I felt on the outside. It's not that people there didn't accept me. It's like I was trying to conform to them, and I didn't like what that represented. So I didn't like me for trying to be like them. Then my pendulum would swing too far to the other side and I would hook, forcing myself to try to stay there, forcing myself to try to conform. I recall, as early as 14 years old, never being comfortable in a group of friends. Whether I didn't feel like I had the same Club Monaco sweater or the same rec club membership or parents who were the same as all the other parents, I felt like an odd duck as a teenager. I was scared to mix, but I was courageous. I always listened within, even then, and found signs and clues to help move me closer to where I wanted to be. I felt like other people had parents that helped guide them, choosing schools or sports or after-school activities for them, but I didn't feel like I had that. I never felt connected, not to myself, my parents, my community, my friends, nothing. But I did feel connected when I would talk to myself, and somehow felt an answer come, a guide, something I could trust to take me on my way when I didn't think other people were there. There was hope. There was comfort. There was light. There was a different voice than the chase. The chase voice is a whisper of the dark side, the shadow side, the side that makes you feel like you aren't good enough, the side that makes you fear the pain. It all stems from being stuck on the logic ceiling worldview. You can't imagine a way out, so you just spin there. There's no surrender to pop out of the spin cycle. We have to dive into what information or knowledge we're missing and have the courage to surrender and say, I don't know. I don't know what I need, but I know I need the signs I'm seeing around me that are keeping me stuck or keeping me around low vibration people or bad energy. I don't leave places feeling filled up. I leave places feeling empty. I'm dancing with the devil, so to speak, or I'm entertaining things I want to keep as a secret in my life. It's about control and trying to force the outcome, knowing it's coming from a place of fear. When we dive in and make a list of everything that feels forced and out of control, we have to look at where we're blaming other people or denying our own role or responsibility or participation and see where we're acting from a place of humiliation or shame because maybe that thing's not for us. Having to surrender and let go of that thing that we thought was the thing for us is one of the hardest lessons to learn. Usually we have to take a look at where we are doing everything we can, and doing is the key word here, to make it seem like we're okay and status quo and comparing ourselves to others. With this, we're trying to force our way on where we want to be instead of allowing ourselves to be guided from that internal knowing place to where we're supposed to be. In a state of fear and control, we see where we want to be from a construct that we lock in with our logic mind as an illusion, and we try to force it, forcing it over and over and over and acting out of our ego. When we're in a place of fear, we're trying to control something that can never be controlled. We're living a life that may be miserable. We despise waking up every single day. Mask it, fake it, fuck it. We're humiliated that we've settled into a path we thought we should do because everyone else is doing it. It's what society and systems set forth as the only way. When people focus on it all too logically and are not connected to their intuitive self, we turn to coping with things that make us feel depressed and anxious and withdrawn and numb and forever escaping. We find logic solutions to numb the pain with pharmaceuticals and never truly feel our way through something. We try to project to the world that we are okay, measuring up just like everyone else, comparing, fearing, doubting, staying in a stagnant place, churning gossip and blame and criticism for why someone else can do it and we can't. The knowings method is something personal I had to look at when I was stuck in different phases and feeling like I was stagnant in a low vibe. I felt like I was stuck in a pattern, a loop, and I was settling in so many areas of my life. Logically, this was a hard argument to understand because on the outside, my life looked good. It looked like it should. Married with children in a nice home and a good career, I'd tell myself I didn't know what to do. I'd sit and spin in anxiety and fear. I'd freeze, or I would run. I would escape to different workshops or conferences. I would escape to different weekends away with friends and hope I would find something in those places outside of myself, something that would reveal to me what I was to do. The longer I was looking outside for these things, the more it felt like I was forcing myself into my own illusionary cage. When the opportunities came for me to open the door and fly away, I'd shut down and sit in the self-satisfaction of the fuck-its, where you know you should say no, but you say yes. These are states where we identify what pride is and how it plays a role in either keeping the mask on and the illusion of keeping it alive, or taking it off and being able to see what the mask truly is and what a tragedy it would be to hide behind it. Instead, we have the courage to step out of that place where we feel bound by a ball and chain and identify that we're scared and frightened to have the courage to move to the next level. But we don't know that we are not wanting to be in this place anymore, that we're living with aggressive words and actions directed to ourselves and other people. Instead, we have to believe it's possible and feasible to get to a new place, and we accept that we can do it. Making a decision when we come from the place of pain is our fear, and trying to cover it with the mask is our ego. Ego and pride. We will always have ego. We have the choice to be using pride as something harmful or applying humility as something helpful. We will always have a kind of shadow self that is the dark to the light. The one shoulder of choice that's not the one on angel wings. The one who dabbles in the dark side. The one who worships self and isn't fueled or filled by any higher power or source greater than oneself. The fuel that is only looking out for self. The pendulum swings from ego-fueled, prideful, righteous side to the ego-partnered, quiet, humble side. And then there's the middle, where you're confident in making a decision, especially when it's a difficult one, when you're ready to choose the other path, the other way, after you've been seeing it for a while. It's a knowing that there's another way. One of the hardest things to do is to fold your own ego, the one you've been holding on to, white-knuckling it and lying to everyone else to wear the mask and show up as you think they want you to show up, until you can't do it anymore. The next hardest thing is getting honest and standing in your truth. The truth that's yours coming through you in that moment. It usually sounds like, I need to take this mask off. This isn't me anymore. I can't keep living this lie. I don't want to do it like this anymore. I need a change. This is making me sick from within. I dislike my life and everything in it when I'm filled with ... fill in the blank. Ego loves to hold on to a story of resentment, too. It loves to loathe in the stories of things we didn't get, things we lost, ways we were victimized, and ways we were humiliated. Yet we rewrite the story as though we were the victor, not the victim. Not in a hero sense, but more in a forced recognition sense. Like a child saying, watch me jump, watch me, watch me. We know that child screaming for attention to be seen. Normal developmental things. When we're screaming at ourselves from within, it's not the owl in the nest inner voice. It's the caged bird that needs to be in the wild squawk. I was someone who never felt good enough or smart enough. I was the ball and chain to my past darkness that made me feel like I was always there in an imaginary shadow over myself. No amount of confession, therapy, workshop, or alternative energy clearing was making it any better. There's not enough sage in the world to smoke out this block, and the people who put their crystals down me from crown to pelvic zone were not having much success taking my blocks away either. It turns out when you're holding on, demanding to be right, it's blocked. It turns out that when you're the victim in the story, it's blocked. It turns out then when you're wanting to wear it like a badge of honor and not balanced with humility, it's blocked. Our ego is a state of mind. It's a place where we're consciously aware of and where we choose to do it anyway. We know it's selfish. We know it's coming from the place that is only serving ourselves. And while we know what we're doing, we decide to stay and do it anyway, even if it's not good for the group or ourselves. The group can be our family, our coworkers, our communities, our friends. At this stage, we have to identify where we're getting prideful, boastful, or arrogant and how we're showing up, and identify our selfishness and define our ego. Throughout addiction, my journaling was dark. Oftentimes, I would write in the early morning hours when I was in physical body pain, withdrawing from chemicals. I'd write pages and pages of plans, a future arising for myself to not have another night like the night before. There are hundreds of these pages. Often they were alongside plans for changing my body or eating differently. Throughout the years of pain, I wanted anything to be true other than the fact I had an addiction. But the pain and the suffering got so deep, I was trying to force and control everything around me. At some point, when you try to bend metal, it's going to snap. Writing through the early years of deciding to put down my ego meant I had to surrender to my addiction and have the courage to completely change my life, my friends, my environment, and shift my way of thinking. That period of surrender and writing had me shift my energy and my vibration to find new things in the world to follow. Things like authors and theories and crystal stores and trending clothing and body piercing. At some point, I started writing about the nudges that spirit gave me. When it gave me the spiritual two-hand shove to pay attention and notice there were things in the world around me that could provide clues or guideposts as to the direction of my life. I started noticing that if I listened differently, my inner self would hear differently and have a different understanding, a different knowing of what to do next. Courage and surrender. I've been working with a client named Ryan for the last few years. He's in software as a service. Solutions for things that are in software is how I describe it. While I have had to analyze what I needed to change based on my behaviors for addictions, not all of my clients go through the same things, especially when it comes to business. Some have to look at what they're unwilling to change and what patterns they've been repeating. The other piece is around comparison and trying to chase the same prize. The tech space and the startup space are plagued with competitive, fear-based chases for money, mentorship, or acquisition. It's a lot of lottery thinking or conditional thinking. Things like, if I win, then ... If this happens, then this can happen ... It's like surrender, but it's giving up, not giving in. It's easy to stay stagnant. It's easy to just stay in the same lane, making a rut of sorts, which is fine unless people start to complain about it. Ryan and I met at a conference for transformation. It was okay, but the leader proved to be someone who lied and lacked integrity and copied others' content and delivered it as her own. A few of us stayed in touch, and as Ryan built his business, we'd check in with each other. When he was ready, he asked for some insight of how he could shift his perspective from what was in front of him. He wanted to feel more connected to his business. He was running away on golf trips many times a year to numb out and disconnect from not wanting to face his life here. His social media presented like his life was fine and good. The first few retreats I ran were only for women. Ryan asked why there weren't any men's events or things he wanted to do: self-work, nature connection, ties to business, and growth. I offered Ryan a one-on-one private lodge in the Rocky Mountains. We did a 5-kilometer hike around snow-covered trails of Emerald Lake. We stopped at the benches, making metaphors for the things we see relevant to where we are in our life. Mountain peaks, summits, losing the trail in the snow, creeks and streams coming from the middle of rock-giving life, and things frozen in time until the season is right. Then he had an aha moment. He stopped on the trail and zoned out. He looked at the mountain, and finally it made sense to him. The answers to his questions came to him. He could see where he needed to go. He could map out a way there. He reported to me a 250% increase in the next quarter in his business. He had more confidence. He saw it from another perspective. He knows what the nest is. The nest is where he retreats now. This past fall, he went on a retreat on his own for professionals like him. He traveled to the west coast of Canada and did the next level of work for himself. He came to my office not long ago talking about new mentors he has, new things he's applying to his business, and how he views people and staff, and how he leads. He's okay not comparing to everyone else. He's okay not to be in the same chase. He's found his people. He's building his life his way, according to his goals and his values. Tina is a chief technology officer whose teenage son decided he wanted to live with his dad and new girlfriend full-time and go to school away to play academy-level hockey. As he was her only child, Tina was gutted. It's a death. Death of the time you thought you would have with someone. Death of a joyous, happy life compared to other families whose kids are living at home. After Tina's divorce, her faith and trust were shaken. She was co-parenting with a cold ex and his girlfriend who lived in a cozy family home where her son spent 50% of his time. As a type A, highly achieving woman, it was only natural her son would absorb some of those traits and apply them to academics and sports. So, at 16, he was chosen for academy-level sports and would move away to board and train. Tina asked to see me one weekend when he asked her not to come visit because his dad was coming too, and her son wanted to be just with them. She was devastated. It was at that breaking point that women come to see me, when all the degrees and MBAs and conferences and working your way up feels useless. They come to me when they feel the deepest sense of rejection and grief and loneliness they've ever felt. Even though your child is acting from a place of love, not knowing how deep it cuts, it still does. And as a professional woman and a professional mom, she smiled and acknowledged on the video call that he was allowed to choose that and have fun, but that it still cut like a knife to the heart. It was the kind of pain When the call ends, that makes you keel over in a deep wail cry and want to scream and throw something. This feeling of not liking the way life went and not liking how it is now, but having to raise children in it, is hard. Children who choose pathways we've never heard of, and children who voice the preferences and choices and change they want to make. This feeling of resentment at what is and was, and the anger of what is, and the fear over how it goes from this point forward is out of your control. Then it's a decision to put to the group, and the outcome is one to accept and respect. But that doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that we don't have to check in and dive deep and feel into it. It means we have to look harder at what it's trying to show us and get to the nest to hear the next steps. A group of women from a mom's group came to one of my retreats. They were members of a group that hosted a wild, fun group of women who longed for the hilarity of summer camp to last forever. Their events revolve around badges and booze, and laughing so hard you cry. Often. And you can cry there. You can shed there. You can get really honest about your resentments there. But they were burnt out. Their lives with their sweet little boys and girls, all high needs youth, are pendulums that swing to the side of hell on a whim. Their children have intense diagnoses that make them rage from the inside. Sometimes the police are called. Sometimes they're admitted to the psych ward for weeks at a time. Sometimes they hurt family members and siblings. Sometimes it's really bad. These women had each other, but they all came with tired eyes and tired souls. They didn't know how to have a life for themselves. They didn't know how to take time for themselves when they're called to the school and playdates and grandparents' houses to pick up their children constantly. These women need retreat. These families need retreat. The healthcare system leaves them feeling completely broken, with no support other than signing their guardianship rights away and letting someone else take care of it. None of them wanted this, and none of them knew what to do. When I was working with them, I was visualizing a healing center where families can come for respite and have their own place on the same property to get specific care for their children, get sleep, get counseling, and get retreat. Each woman left the 3 days wider-eyed and hopeful. Hopeful that with a shift with their own perspective of acceptance of what they've dealt with is hard, very hard, and a truth that the cages they've been putting themselves in are a bit of a hook to the wrong side of the pendulum. They were just so tired and fed up that they've said fuck it to a lot of things. That after having the courage and more courage, the scope of the new path to co-create something else feels like there's no energy to get started. One exercise I suggested to the women at the retreat was a silent walk in nature. If you usually take the path, go off the path. If you usually wander, try a straight line. If you feel like you always walk quickly looking down, try walking slower and look up. If you don't ever walk without earbuds or headphones or a podcast, go in silence. Listen for the wind and water and animal chirps. They did this, and one woman reported back she was so torn about her choices. She usually stays on the path, and this time she went the other way. She usually does what's in flow, and this time she went against the current. She said she didn't like it, and it felt uncomfortable, and she was out of control, and through tears, breakthrough, she realized this is what she needed to equip her next leg of her journey in motherhood. Yet, they did see it, and they did believe it, and they did start. It starts with wanting to start. And those who come to see the others who are plagued in fear with ego over work and roles and titles and fuckets and comparisons and measuring up and fitting into boxes and the like. Having the courage to surrender is making a decision to change and identifying the clues and coincidences that will help push us to new growth place and a new direction. This is where we feel the spiritual two-hand shove again. We do this by analyzing our behaviors and thoughts. Journaling is my way of doing this. Then I observe which actions came out of my journaling. Then I can see how I wrote to myself to be my hero in the story of the life lessons. How I listened for one-liners to take away, reflect on, and write on, repeated over and over. We have to write the things that happened to us and how we got through them. We have to document where we were compared to where we were going, data for the soul. We have to see if we like that process or if we would change something. This is the same thing a business does when it analyzes its activities and profits year over year. For some, sadly, it ends there. The shadow is too hard and too dark to get through. The pain is too much. There's no more wind in the wings to take flight again. Sadly, we all know someone who made it here, and we ask, why couldn't they have just seen it another way? Why couldn't they just turn it around? I don't know. But I do know that we have to try harder. Have conversations sooner, go deeper, and help each other level up. Analyze the data of our souls without judgment, rather than put people in boxes. We need to listen differently. We need to create more space to let people, especially men, be in this place of having a voice again and say what they are forcing, and instead peel back some of the layers and get into feeling, out of paralyzing ego into harmonious ego. End of chapter 6.